Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Today, Chad Argyle, he represents Spanish Fork Council. He's going to speak to us today, so I'm going to turn the rest of the time over to him.
Make sure I turn my phone off because there are penalties, right, Travis? It goes off, you have to buy donuts for everybody. It's not a bad rule, but sometimes it can get expensive. I hope, so Lena asked me to speak and I thought, God, I know quite a few people, maybe I'll ask to, but then I got thinking maybe, and I hope this is interesting. I just want to hear a little bit about some of the things that's going on with the city. Maybe some things that's happened over my tenure, the last 8-9 years or so, on how the city's grown. Some exciting things that are taking place, and so those have come. So this morning, one of the things that's we just got our update on our water for the area. And as of this week, we have surpassed, so the line right kind of went like this, and it's kind of going straight up right now, and we surpassed 1984. So if you remember 1983 and 84 years, we had some really heavy snows. Of course, they didn't stay in the mountains really long. That was the problem. They all come down real quick. But we are surpassed at this point where 84 is still kind of going like this, and we're kind of still going straight up. And it's snowed today and then the last couple of days, so we'll continue, which is a good thing. We need that to serve our reservoirs. One thing that I'm sure you know of, this year has been a record year for permits for homes. I think we were a little bit over 800, which we were trending to break a pretty good record. August came and pretty much went to zero. And over the past couple of months, it's pretty much stayed that. We've had very few requests for homes or new businesses. The commercial is still increasing quite a few. If you've noticed, Spanish Fork in this year's, we have probably 20 new large warehouse office buildings that's been built in the last 2 years and have opened up for business, which has been huge. A couple of them has been in the workings for a long time, and then just to fruition, they've finally put the shovel to the ground. We have had so Travis, some of this stuff is going to be in so it's priority information, right?
Yeah.
Okay. New businesses in Spanish Fork. We've had, over the last about 7 years, we've had more than 100 brand new businesses. That don't count Canyon Creek. Canyon Creek itself has increased. Canyon Creek continues to grow. First America. America First. There's 3 new credit unions right there on that. Yeah, so pretty close. Anyway, City Creek has continued to grow and has been and will continue to be a great blessing. Of course, provides sales tax to Spanish Fork City. One thing that I think was kind of unique to Spanish Fork, I don't know how many of you have seen the commercials for Chick-fil-A. The signs, I love them. The cows eat more chicken, beef puts you to sleep, that kind of stuff's going on. And I think Spanish Fork, we took this really to heart. Of course, we had KFC was here, Chick-fil-A, Super Chick, Slim Chick, which just opened up and has had a big thing, Popeyes, Chester's, Champs, Wing Nuts, Polo Loco, and Chipotle. Pretty much all serve chicken, kind of as one of their main courses. So,
I haven't been to a lot of what you just named. Have you guys been to most?
yeah.
Serious?
So
I better get going.
yeah, you're getting behind because that's just, and there's one more coming, which will be in the new. Some of the businesses, of course, that's been here. Of course, Target's coming. So the company that I work part-time for, has been doing the construction there. And at first it was kind of mid-January kind of thing, but they've run into some issues with the ground out there, which the guy that originally built that building still owns that building. Had the opportunity to talk with him, and he remembers clear back when he lost equipment buried in the mud back there, and it took weeks to get it back out and stuff. And they've experienced some of that clay, water that they've had to resolve in order to expand that building. So that's moving along very quickly now. You'll probably see that open up. I was trying to see what some of of course, the Canyon Creek, the biggest one in Canyon Creek is, of course, Texas Roadhouse, which that was Mayor Lafson's longtime wish to be here. Mountain Mike's Pizza, Dirty Dough, Old Navy, Buckle, Coles, Wing Nuts, Jurassic Taco, the 3 credit unions, Boot Barn, which will open up, Hobby Lobby, Lowe's, which was a huge anchor to that. Chili's is there, the Hampton Inn, car washes in Spanish Fork. If you have a dirty car in Spanish Fork, something's wrong with you, right? And more to come as you see some of the other things that are going forward with it. I think last counted with our meeting, we counted 13 places you could get your car washed one way or another. So, and a couple more of them are going to be built. Some of the important groundbreaking that's taking place right now, of course, our new transfer station that is now broken ground and being built, that will replace the transfer station in Springville on 4 South, which has been outdated for a long time and is desperately. This new one will be such a much improvement. Everything will be inside. You won't even see the garbage. They won't be blowing around. The trucks will pull up to the building. They'll pull into the building. They'll dump their garbage. The garbage will be loaded inside the building into the trucks. The trucks will be enclosed and then go out to a new area where it'll be unloaded. And it's such a huge improvement and has been needed for an awful long time. Our sewer plant, which is more than 50 years old, and we've had several problems with it in the last couple of years, serious problems. One of them, one of the digesters blowing up, which created a really big smell problem for a long time. So, but that is underway. They're pounding pylons, and a lot of the lines have been run. We run a new line from the sewer plant all the way out to Leland Revere Health. There's a pump station there. So we run that all the way, which will open up and is already starting to open up the west side. Canyon Creek ribbon cutting was answered. The hospital, which has been a blessing already. With our new, so just here recently, and I don't know if you noticed, so Spanish Fork City, we hired a new deputy chief, Eddie Hells, new Chief Hells. And within a couple of days, even a month, it went by so quick, he approved Spanish Fork City to become a paramedic city. So now we are a paramedic city, and he changed how we respond to calls quickly. He took over both sides of it, and then just a real quick, he just made it is EMS and fire. Now if you see an ambulance, right now you're probably seeing sometimes where you're seeing 2 ambulances. The reason for that is because there used to be 3 in each ambulance. Now there's only 2 with a paramedic to follow. But the paramedic right now is, because we don't have enough vehicles yet, they will come in a half-ton pickup. The paramedics that's how they'll be in their vehicle, and then they'll respond accordingly. They'll be on call 24/7. There's 12 of them.
And I know he met with the ER doctors there at Spanish Fork Hospital and got their input and how we're gonna run this. I think that really helped.
We were having some problems with the hospital. It was not good.
Yeah.
And he solved them problems immediately.
My son-in-law's a doctor there, so.
And there was actually one call that really responded. He was on the call, and the person was, and I don't even know the issue, but was failing. And they were just like, okay, let's just get to Provo. And he says, no, you're not. So you're going to pull into Spanish Fork. They have the equipment to stabilize him. And they did. They pulled and stabilized him, then transported him. And he knew what they had there, which was great. So, and we are doing the transfers now. All the transfers out of Spanish Fork are being done. They were kind of getting some other people to do them.
So
But
what were the problems they were having before?
just some issues with,
Like,
we were not where we needed to be, Spanish Fork
Really?
City. Yep, we needed to be better than we were doing. And it was causing some problems. And he fixed them. So, that quick. And he's been a blessing. And then he brought a deputy fire chief who was one of the persons that I was involved in the interviews. And when I heard her list of whatever, fire and EMS, and she's done it her whole life, and the fact that she's a ski instructor and she does ski patrol and 100 other things, and we interviewed, she was on a ship when we interviewed her on a vacation, but she couldn't come home because of COVID, but was kind of my choice because of her qualifications. But Eddie turned around and listened and hired her back, and we got two for the price of one, you might say. But it has absolutely gave our EMS and our fire a shot in the arm as we move to be full-time, and we will slowly move. The ambulance now is, and we will continue to move that way. Library, hope to be open within the month. Seth is telling us he wants us in that building. That has new council chambers there, and he wants us to either open the last in February, the first in March for our new council meeting. And so it's coming along really well. We just did a groundbreaking for new SFCN. They are completely out of space where they're at as they have grown. They're over 80% of people in Spanish Fork have SFCN internet in them. Of course, the cable TV is slacking like everybody else, the streaming methods and stuff like that. And they just recently did an update which will allow some streaming through them, and we'll start doing that. And we've had some unique things happen. Netflix has come to us, everybody in town's hooking to Netflix, and put some front end stuff into our city, which made it better for customers of Spanish Fork and made it better for the customers of Netflix. Station 62 is up and running. Right now we're doing a study in Spanish Fork because Station 61 needs to be able to allow people to stay there, which it doesn't currently. We did kind of had a study and had some people look at the structure of that building. It will not allow us to build up. And we don't really have room to build out unless we do something with either Memorial Building or go east in the parking garage. But before we spend that money, we hired a firm to look at that because that might not be the best place for that station to be. We may need to place it somewhere else, especially as we grow this way with our warehouses and that kind of thing. So that's an ongoing thing. And we hope to have that because that's something that's important, and we need to go forward because we need to be able to have them be able to stay and at the fire station so that we can do the 24/7. Things that have happened in Spanish Fork that over the last last 10 or what, our population in the last 10 years have gone up about 10 to 11,000. In 2015 we was about 37, we're now about 47. So it's growing pretty quickly, and obviously will continue. And those people are coming from all kinds of walks of life. I just had probably 17 people move in my backyard, and it was interesting. A couple of them had gone away and came back, but there's people from California, Washington, Virginia, New Mexico, Arizona, Texas. It was just, they're all, and a lot of them some of them have just come, some of them are rentals. They just came and said, hey, we've heard about Spanish Fork, we want to live here. And we like what we see, so. Couple of unique things. Of course, we had the Ball Mountain and Pole Creek fire that was the biggest fire we've ever had. 108,000 acres were burned during that time. Put some communities in risk during that happened, and with a lot of hard work and a lot of prayers and things, Woodland Hills and Elk Ridge, which came very close to being part of that casualty, but that was a large fire. Our city budget has gone from 65 million to 185 million, but that includes projects. Our budget to run the city has gone up substantially as we've put on more employees. We've gone from a little under 200 to now 250 full-time employees as we've grown and needed to expand. We changed the city logo back to Pride and Progress, which it used to be. And what was funny about that is each year we go up to Zermatt where they take the council and all the departments, and we spend 2 or 3 days up there to go over past stuff and then all the new stuff and have them propose employees and things and budgets that they meet to the council. It's always an interesting time because there's some things there. Mayor Leifson he bought some t-shirts and had Pride and Product put on it, and then he had us put it underneath our shirt that we was there. Nobody knew about it, including the city manager, and at the right time he had us pop off our shirt, and we had these Pride and Progress, and Seth standing there, and the mayor says, "You've got 1 year to get it done," and he did it. So, and we spent a lot of money on this logo with the intent that this logo does not change. So in the future, when you look and see that school bell housing, you think of Spanish Fork City. And that's the same with a lot of other, famous logos. You don't need the name. You can look and see what it is, and you know what it is. So
did you have to spend a lot of money to go back? So I know you had to spend to get the new one, but to go back to the old one, it costs,
yes.
I guess.
So a lot of research went into what we wanted it to look like and how we wanted it. And then a lot of it, because then we had to change some 300 something vehicles and our logo and our stationery and everything that goes along with that. So it was not cheap to do that. But we didn't, our thing was, we're not going to do this again. We're going to do this, and it's going to stay this. And then as we go forward, and 50 years from now, that'll be the logo, and you'll recognize Spanish Fork as that such. So, and that's a good thing. So we're not, another future don't have to go through it, and it's not cheap to do that, to do that kind of stationery. Probably one of the most important things that I think happened that to me is if nothing else happened in all these, I have 2 pages of things that's been accomplished in Spanish Fork would be the All Abilities Park that we got completed. Now, it was proposed and talked about, but it took some people that live in our midst a donation and a shot in the arm. And if you don't know, they donated $3 million, but with that $3 million came a condition. You have to complete this in a year, because their comment was, government's getting in the way of something good, and you guys need to get this done. And I won't say we opened it in a year, but we did really good. And Westland Construction, they're like, yeah, okay, we can do this. And they stepped up and got it done. We had to go back and fix a few things. We had some issues, but we got it done. Sorry. The 30 families that showed up at our Oaks when we started this project to enlighten us on what to build and how to build brought such a light of information to the council, to our departments. Dale Robbins, he sat down with many of them individually and listened to them. And the biggest thing was, when we go somewhere with our family and we take our special needs, we can't go to a park because there is not the amenities to do that. And when and many of you probably know her, when Mrs. Inoki, whose child is in a wheelchair, and Sabrina spent a lot of time in the hospital. when she came to us and told us those exact words. And I think she has 5 boys now. She has 4 boys and Sabrina. And she just simply said, we got to go to the park, our whole family, and the kids got to play with Sabrina and help her in some of those things and those issues and some of those things. Such a blessing to our community. And that didn't come at some people. There are other people in our community. That was already a development that was approved and was going to be built. It was a multi-housing development, that developer. And I'll always be grateful to him. He didn't need to step down from that, but he did graciously because of what we said we were going to build there. But there was a lot of little mini miracles that took place when we built that. And with that, it helped us get that year thing that the Fords asked us to be. The one thing they asked is to absolutely not talk about who did that and not name anything after them. And we honored that except for one little teeny thing. We named the falls in the place Ford Falls. We called it Ford Falls. So, and it's the signs there and it will remain forever. So anyway, it's a cool park. And it's cool to go there my grandkids love it. No matter what, it's just a fun place to go, especially in the summer when the water's going. Of course, that's appealing to most. Hopefully, in the near future, this was something I hoped would have gotten was the Gail Halverson Museum. It's in process and it'll get completed. Back again, government taking a lot of time and them raising funds to try to get this done. What he had envisioned is such an awesome thing because it'll allow kids to go there and learn. And there's companies who have stepped up to say once it's open and we'll back that because we need pilots to be trained. We need people to take an interest in aviation. And that's what he wanted. He wanted them to be able to, what he did was wonderful and great, but he also was the aviation part of it, flying a plane and being part of that and what that brings. And our airport down there has substantially grown. If you've not gone down and seen hangar after hangar after hangar, and the minute those are built, they're rented out. We have a request. Steve Wilson has a list, and he's building them as fast as he can, and as soon as he's done, they move into them. And there's been some pretty awesome jets move into them. They'll come and take us. We've had an opportunity to go to Scottsdale in one of them. And if you can afford it, that's the only way to fly is private. It's quiet, it's comfortable. You don't have to go through all that stuff. You just get on the plane. They land down in Scottsdale. It's wonderful. But then we went up to Seattle in another one. Claire Anderson's turbo-propped plane, and it's pretty nice. Rank has his privileges, I guess I'd say. That's get to do some of that thing. We originally bought the fairgrounds, which was the Swenson Metal property. That's going to be parking and our new food court for our rodeo, and we're excited about that. Also for the county to do their county fair and other things like that. And that's going along pretty good. If you notice, Reams has moved down there, and it took a little maneuvering with Reams. It's kind of funny. They kind of were told to get out, and so they said, okay, we'll get out. We made arrangements for them to even maybe use our building for a couple of months, but then they come back and said, we can't find anybody to take up your space, you're okay. But now there's a event center that's moving in where Reams was at. They've moved out and starting to move into their new building. Excited to see what that'll bring. Not sure what that's going to be, but there's some parking improvements that need to go. Of course, we're in the process of building a rec center. It took a long time. We're behind the ball with that. We have a location which will be at the sports park on Volunteer Drive. We've had to do some negotiating down there to make sure to get the property that we needed, and we're still working on that. But the design, another thing, is going along. I think here real soon we're going to announce a an engineer to start designing that, so we know some things in the building and stuff like that. We kind of know what we want, but we've got to go down that. Spanish Fork Golf Course, Oaks just finished. That was a little over $4 million project to improve their water there, saving us. We're told it's going to save us 40 million gallons. And that to me is phenomenal to even think about. But because it was 20, 30 years old, it was very inefficient. They had to water places where if you had a dry spot here, they had to water the whole area and things like that. But it's done, it's complete, and it already, I have the luxury of having a son-in-law on the water board, that works for the water part. So it's real easy for me to call him and say, okay, tell me what's going on. And we've quit having to pump water up above the golf course, so it now runs down because the pressure that we get from that new tank pushes it up there, so we don't have to pump it. And he said that they had already used much less last year at the end of the season. So looking forward to a full summer of that happening. They're building a new 5 million gallon water tank right at the mouth. If you've noticed, there's construction. We had a 3 and a 1, I think, there. We're tearing them 2 down and building a 5 million to better serve our community. UMPA built a brand new building, and if you don't know who UMPA is, that's who buys and sells our power, and that's who holds our assets that Spanish Fork City has, and they're coal and gas, wind, solar, thermal, nuclear, and I keep encouraging them. We need to be involved in the nuclear part of it. This plant that's going to open up in Idaho. They call it cellular cells. I'm not going to remember the name now. But it's a plant that doesn't have the waste like the old plants do, far less waste, and you can build modular, so you can build small and then you can build on, and you're not building billions. And it's pretty cool what they have. We have built 2 solar farms, the ones right out behind Lowe's on our old dump, which would have been used for nothing. If you know, we couldn't drill down in, so they're anchored by sandbags, you might say. It's not quite that. But then we built one down in, that has 4,500 solar panels. The one in Mona that we built is 47,000. So much bigger, and it's providing, this one here has been providing better than they expected. So that one down there, we hope, is an asset that is in UMPA. They continue to buy and sell and look to the future, and they're very good at doing that. Those people buy and sell. They save us the 6 cities, which is Provo, Spanish Fork, Nephi, Manti, and Levan, and Salem. They save us a ton of money, because if we don't have extra power, we can sell it on the market, or we can buy cheaper on the market. That's what we do. The biggest, we just recently got the permit from the railroad to finish Spanish Fork Parkway, which is huge, yes. And as I came down here today, Kilgore's up there starting, so we've got to do the road down to the tracks, and then on the other side down to Highway 51, and the railroad will build the crossing and stuff. So, but we have that permit. We had a couple of things, and we've got to close 3 crossings. We've already had a resolution, and we're going to close the one that was already closed. It was a right-of-way one for the farmers that was right there, just a little farther down. The other one's 3400 East, which is up, crosses over onto Highway 51 from Spanish Fork, and we're going to start closing that. Instead of wait till this is done, we're going to get that closed and start letting people know that that's going to be a closure, and so that we can look to the future. And there has to be some right-of-way that we'll keep, because of a couple of farmers there will need to get down that road, but they won't be able to cross the tracks. Some fun things that happened, and Travis, since I started, our very first one was a Halloween video that we did in the parking lot of Spanish Fork. Was Michael Jackson, and every year Travis back here and Pete has put together a Halloween video for us. Sometimes we look pretty goofy, but it's a lot of fun to do. And I think these guys have funner at it than we do. But anyway, Dowdle Puzzle, that was a fun experience for Spanish Fork City. It wasn't cheap to buy that puzzle, but it was fun. And I'm so impressed with Dowdle, the company, and Eric, the guy came to some of these businesses in Spanish Fork, talked personally with them. I'm pretty sure he's hooked on Two Jack's Pizza. And when we introduced it, they took the Jack, senior and junior, and introduced him and had him know who they were because he liked the pizza. But he sat in that line and signed those things and visited with him. He stayed there till every one of them that anybody wanted signed, which is pretty impressive of a businessman to do that. And there's some unique, and I hope the one that's the most unique, of course, all the council that's presently serving is there. Brandon Gordon made the mistake of making a comment when they was in the meeting because he was trying to get something done, and he made the comment, well, just put me as shoveling crap then. So Eric did. Brandon's in that twice. He's in there as one of the councilmen, and if you notice down in the right-hand corner, Brandon's got a shovel and he's behind the horse. And he didn't know that even until it came out. Because they had to point it out to him. So I have had such a good opportunity to serve. I'm going to serve one more year and then I'll be done. Need to move on to some other things that's taking place in my life. And it's been such an experience to get to know employees and departments and learn about the city and some of the things that take place. We've had a huge change in the last 8 years over my tenure, you might say. We've replaced the city manager, the assistant city manager. We replaced the fire chief recently. We replaced the accountant. Kent Clark moved on to BYU. We had our lawyer. We replaced him. He retired. I think he just retired so he could go work for Salem City, though. Yeah. But Salem is growing, and they needed them to. And of course, I mentioned the new fire chief and deputy chief. And we hired 12 paramedics, which I think will be such a blessing. Response times. We are now, I think, at 44 police officers. We have such an awesome police force. We had a banquet. Several of them were recognized for saving lives. And fentanyl is in our community. If you don't think it is here. And they carry that with them at Noxcan. They carry them with that, and they've saved many lives. And even one that was recognized was just a boy that one of his friends, he had a headache, gave him a pill. They didn't know what it was. It was fentanyl. Quit breathing, they saved his life. And his father came and explained, wanted them to know that he wasn't somebody that took drugs, but thanked him for saving his life. And we have such awesome fire. Our response times need to improve as our city grows. Our fire EMS, our public safety is so good. And as you know, they're probably coming to you on your worst day, and they need to be at their best when they're doing that, and they are. And we, as a council, support them wholeheartedly and make sure they have the training and the tools to do that, which is so important. We had the opportunity, which didn't happen. We picked two councilmen. We just recently hired Jesse Cardon, new to our council, and before that we hired Shane Marshall, and then he run as a council after the thing. That's something that hasn't really happened, but it did. So really kind of unique to us. Our rodeo and fairgrounds director retired. We replaced him. And what's funny is each time we've done this is we even replaced a Karen. And if you know Karen Bradford, we replaced her with 3 people. She was from Clearback with Jack Swenson, many of you know him, and she was awesome. But we needed to have 3 people do her jobs because she had a lot of stuff on her plate. And it's been the same with each part of that. As we've replaced our city recorder, we replaced him with 2 people. The fairgrounds, Angie was our recorder. She went down there as the fairgrounds secretary to help with that because our fairgrounds and getting that going, and those contracts and all those people that donate to the fairgrounds, stuff like that, is so important, and she's now a vital part of that. We have a new library director, and I think some of these opportunities that we've had to hire some of these people, a lot of them has been in-house, some of them hasn't, but we've done. I like Spanish Fork a whole bunch. The one thing I can always say about it is an awesome place to live and raise your family here in such a good environment. It's safe. We were voted the safest city in the state, which is so important. And Chief Adams, when he left, he took that last one with him. That was a pretty proud moment for him to say that we have a safe city. Not that we don't have issues, we absolutely do. But we deal with them straightforward and the best we can and take care of those issues quick and safe. Light parade, we had a guy trying to drive down the road, and that had so many swarmed. Even our officers from other communities responded to that guy driving down the road, and he hit the horse. I'm glad he hit the horse instead of somebody else, because he went a long ways before he stopped, but they were quick to respond and take that, which they always are. If you have any questions, just real quick, we as a council over the last 7 years have approved 5,385 lots, some 117 subdivisions, and over just around 1,700 new acres have been annexed into our community. So we're growing.
I can't believe the change. When you hear it, like, that's a lot of change.
It's a lot of change. 7 pages worth.
Have you had, what has the feedback been on the roundabouts that you've been putting in?
You're asking the wrong person. The theory is absolutely wonderful. This is me talking, okay? But when we get to the design, we kind of fall short. St. George does a really good job of building roundabouts. They're wide, you can get around them, get trucks through them. I've had to take a few of the engineers for a ride in a large truck with a trailer on it. And one engineer's he was excited about the brand new truck that I took him in. It was a brand new Kenworth. And he had never been in a large truck, but he got to see what I was explaining when, you only have so much room to maneuver, and their simulators show the trucks moving through it real nice and clean and stays in the lines, and that's just not happening. And Eddie, our new chief Hales, has asked some issues. Most of the time, actually, most of the ones we put in, they work really well. They do. Issues are the people trying to get through them or work through them and learn about them. The accidents that happen are very minor. We're not going to have an injury of somebody probably going 15 miles an hour, but they solve a light problem. If we put a light in it, it costs a lot more money, and it keeps some of the traffic flowing. Sometimes they don't work so great because at certain times there's just so much traffic. It's hard to fix that when there's so much traffic. But there's more coming. There's several.
I just hope they make them bigger.
Yeah.
Close to the one on 4th North and 8th East.
Yep.
And every time I go around it, I'm going, this should have been about 4 feet more in diameter.
Yeah.
And because the cars coming in and out hitch so close sometimes.
Yeah. And that's what I've tried to get them. It's just a little, give us room to maneuver, because people are driving large trucks, and the motorhomes that they have nowadays in the fifth wheels, they're 42 feet long and 3 axles. They don't go through so good, and neither do these trucks. And we'll always have trucks delivering. We don't have railroad, so you're going to have trucks delivering, and they're working on that. And I've tried to keep telling them. That's why I took them for a ride, hoping that they would, and they did. They've listened, but yeah. So we're going to continue to buy them. But sometimes when you're limited in an existing area like 4th North, 4th East, makes it real tough to be able to, instead you start buying homes and stuff, and we don't want to do too much of that. We do a little bit of it, but they serve a purpose. So
Well, it is better.
yeah, it does flow better. It does. Yep.
But I don't know if there's any way to correct the old road in 4th North. We've got a roundabout there and it's a three-way. And that's.
Yeah.
Lines up.
And hopefully, as that grows and we get some issues around race school and getting out and around and different through there, that will help improve that. And as Spanish Fork Parkway opens, I think that'll take some traffic away. There's some things that'll happen that I think it just will.
I'm not.
Yeah, I know, but it'll help that. There's so much that's in the coffers that are coming. New changes and stuff like that, especially with Spanish Fork, because we're kind of in the limelight right now. So thank you for allowing me.
Thank you.